Hi, I'm Scott Seaton, Music Director of the North State Symphony, and today I'm here with Jim Malin, who is one of the incredible sponsors of our fall season months of music, and I thought I would take a moment to talk to Jim and get to know a little bit more about you. So, nice to be with you today, Jim.
Nice to see you, Scott. As far as my background in music or my love of music, it started actually when I was in junior high school. I took a music appreciation course, and which they offered in junior high, believe it or not, and was introduced to program music in the beginning and got started with that, and then it's just grown ever since.
Well, I'm sure it's been quite a trek for you. And where did you grow up?
In junior high, I was living in Walla Walla, Washington, and then my parents were associated with the National Park Service, so I moved to Yellowstone National Park actually and graduated from school in Montana.
Really?
And then went to the University of Montana in Missoula and graduated there and spent 27 years in New Mexico teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Found orchestras there that I enjoyed, moved to Midland, Texas, and they had an orchestra that I enjoyed, and then 12 years ago I retired and moved out here. And interestingly enough, discovered the North State Symphony.
And when you lived in New Mexico and Texas, what did you have access to more of the regional orchestras, or were you close to one of the professional groups there?
No, they were regional orchestras, the El Paso Symphony Orchestra and then the Midland Odessa Symphony Orchestra. But occasionally I would drive 300 miles to Fort Worth and go to Bass Hall and go to a concert there.
Beautiful hall, yeah. I've conducted in there once.
At Bass Hall?
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, and my only trip to Dallas-Fort Worth, but actually my only trip to Texas so far. So I'd love to go back and do more exploring. But the places you lived in New Mexico and Texas are more the size of Redding, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
There's around 100,000-ish people.
Right. Well, El Paso's, when I moved there, it was about 300,000. Now it's close to 800,000.
Oh, wow, okay.
But they still have a smaller regional orchestra, as does Midland Odessa.
Mm-hmm. And you never actually played an instrument yourself. You're more of an appreciator, correct?
Correct. I grew up in, as I said, just in Yellowstone National Park. My father was a Park Service employee. So in that rural area, when there's only 500 people in a town of Gardner, there wasn't a great deal of opportunity for music lessons. Mm-hmm. So I've always appreciated music, but never really had the opportunity to take lessons.
Yeah. And you've now been in Reading, you said 12 years?
Correct.
How did you discover, well, first of all, how did you end up in Reading? What brought you here?
Retirement.
Mm-hmm.
My sister and her husband live in the area. And so my sister felt that it would be good, since I was going to be retiring, to move out here and live closer to them. And so I decided to do so. And 12 years ago, I moved out here. And then about 6 years ago, I kept looking for an orchestra, but couldn't find one. And then one day I came across the Cascade Theater website, and they were advertising season tickets for the North State Symphony. And it was a really great program that first year. Mm-hmm. So I got season tickets, and I wanted good seats, so I got seats in the loge. Mm-hmm. And the first concert that I went to in September, I had become associated with another couple in the area, Bob and Louise Wilkinson.
Wonderful couple.
And during the intermission, I stood up and turned around, and Louise stood up and looked at me, and I looked at her, and I think she almost fell over the balcony because there aren't too many people in Lake California that like to go to the symphony orchestra. Mm. So we've become good friends and have remained associates. And so then, after the season was almost over in May, Louise asked if I would attend or would like to attend a North State Symphony League meeting. And I said, sure, I'll go. And so I went, and it was a group of wonderful people who do a lot of volunteer work for the North State Symphony. And they twisted my arm, and I wrote out a check and became a member.
Simple enough, right?
Simple enough.
Now, what I've always appreciated about you is your attention to detail. You're very meticulous. You write incredible letters, and not something that you see too much anymore. And so I think we got connected that way.
We did.
And I sort of dragged you into all of this.
Well, I don't know that you dragged me into it, but no, I've had friends that were good letter writers,
Mm-hmm.
and they used to write as if it was a conversation, just like you and I are having. And so I continued that, and I remember after the first or second concert, when you became involved and became the music director, I wrote and said what a great orchestra I thought it was, and I still do. And you wrote back, and then I believe you wrote to the North State Symphony League and asked who this person was that was sending letters. And Louise called me up and asked me, she said, "Did you write a letter to Scott Seaton?" And I said, "Well, why do you want to know?" And she said, "Well, we're just trying to find out who wrote these letters." And I said, "Well, yes, I was the person who wrote the letters."
Mm.
So,
and the rest is history.
And the rest is history. And I still write letters.
Yeah, no, and it's much appreciated to be communicating with you in that respect, because it's a step back from all of the busyness in the current world. You know, it's a step back from email and all of the instantaneous communications and transactions that we all have to go through every day, and actually sit down and respond to a letter is a nice meditative process, and I thoroughly enjoy it, and I really appreciate that you wrote that first letter and got us involved in all of that.
Well, I still think people like to hold something in their hand.
Yeah.
And as you say, people don't do much of that anymore. And since I'm retired and have more time, I probably do more of it than a lot of people with busier schedules, but it's still something I enjoy. I write a lot of letters in longhand, and I write even more on the computer,
right,
and mail them off. But I've asked people if they want me to stop, and they say, no, please keep writing. Don't expect something in return, but please keep writing.
Right. So your first North State Symphony experience was my first concert?
Exactly.
And so how was it that, because you lived here for 6 years prior, correct?
Right.
So, but you mostly went to Sacramento to see performances there.
Correct.
And so how, and I think this goes to the whole problem with places like Reading and Chico, and having a symphony like the North State Symphony, is there's still plenty of people like you who have no idea that such an organization exists. True. And that's one of the big challenges we have to figure out is, how do we make everybody in our communities aware of what we're offering and all of the things that we're doing. So,
well, as you say, this is an electronic age, and that works great. But I think actually that if there were more paper notices, bulletins, or notices on billboards or something like that would attract people.
Right.
And I've noticed that you've done more publicity on television lately, which I think has been good. I've seen a couple of advertisements on TV. Mm-hmm. So, and I really don't know why I couldn't find something about the North State Symphony prior to the time when I did discover it.
Well, then what a shock that first concert must have been with Beethoven's Fifth Symphony.
Well, it wasn't a shock as such, because I've been fortunate to hear it before, but as I said, even after that first concert, with the North State Symphony being a smaller regional type of orchestra, I was very impressed with the orchestra and you, because I've been privileged enough to see some major orchestras throughout the United States and a couple places in Europe. And the smaller regional orchestras that I've been to have been good, but not excellent. Mm-hmm. And I think the North State Symphony for a regional orchestra is really excellent.
Well, thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Yeah, I know we have a lot of wonderful musicians who make it very special for me and for our patrons.
And they travel a great distance.
Yeah, we, 50% at least are from the region, from Chico and Reading. And we have some people who come from as far away as Tucson and even Memphis, Tennessee now. Which is kind of kind of crazy, but they love playing with the group, and you know it is something special, and I love that we have people, because we don't pay them that well, that's for sure, who come from so far and just enjoy making music with us. So that's great. Now, Jim, because you have such a love of music, do you have any favorite composers in particular?
Well, one of the first composers whose program music I listened to was Beethoven.
Mhm.
And it was Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, which is a great piece of program music.
Yeah.
And I think that's what started it. So Beethoven, I like Baroque, Romantic, classical. As we get closer to the modern era, I'm not so enthusiastic, but I like Handel, I like Vivaldi. I have a cousin who is a Mahler fan, and I find Mahler kind of dark and deep, and
A lot of it is very dark.
I have to try to expand my horizons a little bit. And my cousin never really liked the lighter classical musicians or composers. The funny thing is that when he died on Beethoven's birthday.
Really? So just 2 days ago?
Yes, well, not 2 days ago, but when he passed away several years ago, he died on Beethoven's birthday. So that was rather ironic, I think.
So outside of your passions with the North State Symphony and the incredible work that you've been doing with the Writing League and being involved in all the behind the scenes stuff and supporting all of our wonderful combined missions, and aside from letter writing, what are your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing? What makes you you?
I travel. I travel as much as possible, and of course this year.
Not too much traveling.
Not too much traveling. I had four vacations canceled this year. So, but I've done a lot of traveling. I spent 3 months in India in 1980 as a member of the group study exchange for Rotary International, which was absolutely fascinating, and I would go back in a heartbeat. Been to Italy, Germany, Scotland, England, Wales. So whenever I can, I like to get out and do a lot of traveling. I've been to Beethoven's house in Bonn, Germany, and Mozart's house in Salzburg, and Puccini's home in Lucca, Italy, Pavarotti's home in Modena, Italy. So.
Now, when you travel to places, especially a place that you've not been, what is your mindset? Do you more like to do the tour thing with tourist groups, or do you like to wander off on your own and try to discover sort of the places off the beaten path? Like, what is your mindset when you go to a new place?
I've done both, and a lot of times I'll travel by myself, and so I can set my own schedule.
That's good.
And I spent, when I went to Bonn, Germany, I spent 5 days there. And just would wander around. I found some interesting little restaurants. Yeah. A lot of times people spoke English, sometimes they didn't. And I didn't have a translator device with me, so conversation was interesting, but we always managed to do things. I have traveled with a tour group, and the only problem that I have with a tour group is it's like a cruise. You get just a little taste of something, but not enough to really enjoy it. So, but a tour group or a cruise, you can find those places and then think, well, maybe I'll go back by myself and spend more time.
Right. Well, that's good. It's like an overview and allow yourself to do something else in the future at your own pace. It's nice.
But I've enjoyed both, and I met an interesting couple from Niagara Falls a year ago that were in the tour group, and they wanted to exchange addresses. And I tried to discourage them. And they said, why? And I said, because you will be inundated with letters. And so we did go ahead and exchange addresses. And we've been keeping correspondence about once, twice a month. We correspond.
That's great.
By letter, not by email.
Well, Jim, it's been a pleasure chatting. And I really appreciate all the work you've done with the Symphony, and also for being one of our sponsors for this fall. couldn't do it without you to keep music alive in the North States. So thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you, Scott, and I've enjoyed it too, and I hope that things get back to normal in 2021.
I can't wait for normalcy, and especially to get back in the Cascade and you know, hopefully do something like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
Right.
And actually feel this all-encompassing music once again. So I'm going a little stir crazy without it. So hopefully soon we can all get back to that.
I hope so too, and it was nice to have you visit.
Yeah, great to be here. So thanks again.